Hello everybody, so this video is entitled MSTR stock. Beat goes on, the beat goes on. Beating the denominator is what Saylor is going to do with MSTR stock. Again, no financial advice, no investment advice. But of course, it is a big bet of my portfolio. Plus Stretch. We're going to talk about Stretch as well. So, the beat goes on, Saylor tweets. Of course, he bought more. He buys 48 weeks out of 52, 48 weeks out of the year. Only 4 weeks out of a year he can't buy because they gotta close the quarter. Hopefully this time the buy is because of ATM use, common ATM use, a lot of common ATM use. I'm hoping he used it a lot. We know he did, or at least I know he did, I think, because it was 1.3 and we dropped to 1.24. Bitcoin is going through a phase where it's behaving like a stable coin. It hasn't really moved in 5 days. 78K is roughly the price we have for Bitcoin. And I like the pause. I love the pause of Bitcoin. This is important. AI stocks are running too fast. They're not too far. They're not running too far. I want to make sure that I think AI stocks are going to go much higher than now. I'm just saying they ran really, really fast. Okay, we got to take a breather. The Middle East situation can still flare up. You know, if you saw the events of this weekend, we still have a geopolitical situation. We still have a political situation that is, you know, a little wild, to say the least. And so you can have a tweet that can bring the market back down. So I like that strategy, and Bitcoin are taking a breather. I like that we are in neutral territory. This is healthy for us to be in neutral territory. Let's stay like that. Let's stay neutral. And we're going to finish April strong if we stay at 78 anyways. And so that's pretty good for me. Pretty good news right now. Actually, about the Fed chair. So you had one senator who was single-handedly blocking or saying he would block Kevin Warsh to be the new Fed chair. And CNBC reporting right now that Chile is prepared to end the blockade. Which means that we're going to have a, POTUS-nominated Fed chair. And of course, he said that he was not depending on whatever the president said to drop the rates. But let's not be fools here. He was chosen by the president. We know that he appeared stark a few times, but let's not be fooled here. You know, in my view, Kevin Warsh is a dove. If he's a dove, he's going to drop the rates. If he drops the rates, that's going to be good for stocks. That's going to be good for the economy. And that's going to be good for Bitcoin, of course. And, you know, people who say, oh, what about inflation? Well, what I say is we don't have a choice. It's either inflation, either Great Depression collapse type on steroid. These are the two choices. High inflation or collapse on steroid. And I believe politicians around the world will always choose high inflation over a cascading collapse of the economy that would make the 1930s look like a boom. Because all of these companies have so much debt, the government has so much debt, we have no choice. The rates have to go back to zero. And when they will be at zero, it will be a beautiful thing because then you won't have the Fed controlling the economy as much, because zero is zero and you can't move it as much. And that was, of course, the state of the 2010s. We had very stable low rates and the market were behaving much closer to the fundamentals. Anyways, this is not a Fed video. I realized a lot of people are not as passionate or don't have as many opinions about the Fed as I do, and that's fine. Let's talk to another topic. Let's talk about the Ponzi. The Ponzi that Peter Schiff is calling. Peter Schiff is calling Stretch a Ponzi. And so Fongli had an interview on Paul Barron Network, 2.4 million subscriber. Paul Barron, by the way, huge following. Many people saw this interview. So, really briefly, if it needs a reminder, why is STRC not a Ponzi? STRC is not a Ponzi because it takes the money. Well, first of all, STRC and strategy are very, very transparent. Ponzi's, by definition, are not transparent. They are very, very transparent. You know exactly what they are doing. What is STRC doing? It's taking the money, sells it at $100, one share, $100, takes that money, puts it into Bitcoin. That's the main difference. A Ponzi, you take the money, you give it to others as the yield. This is not what's going on. Strategy takes the money, MSTR stock issued or STRC stock issued, you take the money and then you put it into Bitcoin. That's entirely different. You put it into Bitcoin, right? So unless you think Bitcoin is going to zero, and in that case, if Bitcoin is going to zero, then that wouldn't be a Ponzi. That would be a bankruptcy. That would be a bankruptcy. And of course, if MSTR goes bankrupt or STRC will go to the liquidation value, whatever that's left. But that's a bankruptcy. That's not a Ponzi. They take the money, they put it into Bitcoin. A Ponzi is you take the money and you give it back to the earlier investors. You give it back to the earlier investors. And so the fact that Peter Schiff doesn't understand that Bitcoin has outperformed anything else the past, 15 years, Bitcoin has outperformed. The fact that Schiff doesn't understand that, that's his problem, right? That's entirely his problem. It's like, if you take the money, you invest it in Bitcoin, Bitcoin goes up by 29%, and you give out a yield of 11.5%, you make the delta, right? You make, 18% delta. Your delta is roughly 18%, and that accrues to the common. That accrues to the common shareholder. So why is it not a Ponzi? It's not a Ponzi because the money received is not used to pay the people who just bought the new shares. Right? The people who bought the new shares, you're not taking their money to pay the dividend of the old people who bought the shares a long time ago. No, you're taking that money, you're putting it into Bitcoin. You're putting it into Bitcoin. And by putting it into Bitcoin, which is a finite asset, by the way, you force the price of Bitcoin up by investing it into Bitcoin because it's a finite asset. A little bit like Apple stock forces the price of Apple stock to go up by buying back Apple stock. Very obvious to me. But then, of course, Fong Li makes a bigger point, and I agree, which is when you have a digital transformation of anything, people dismiss, people do not understand it. Bitcoin is the digital transformation of capital. And a lot of people still think it's witchcraft. They still don't understand it. Just like a lot of people still don't understand AI. A lot of people don't understand self-driving cars. If you talk about self-driving cars, you still have a lot of people who think it's a scam and it's never going to happen. If you talk about AI, you still have people who think AI is, not as reliable as your librarian. Oh, AI is never going to do this. AI is not going to do that. Oh, AI is not as good as like the human brain. You still have a bunch of people who believe that. And AI, of course, in so many situations is leaps and bounds ahead. It's super artificial intelligence. But, people don't get it, right? How many people are flabbergasted at Hollywood? They don't understand how it's possible that we have these excellent videos, like absolutely excellent, short now, 2-minute, 5-minute clips generated by AI. What do you think the people in Hollywood think? They're flabbergasted. They don't understand. They don't understand the new technology. So they don't call it a Ponzi. Maybe they call it witchcraft or something like that. They don't understand. New technology is never understood by the old guard, right? And Peter Schiff is like old guard to the old guard. Like it's like old. Like if you look at his history, from what I understand, like his father. Anyways, I'm not gonna go there. But it's old guard of the old guard. Of course. Oftentimes, the simplest explanation is the best explanation. That's Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is the best explanation. I think the simplest explanation is that when you've done your career criticizing Bitcoin, when you have more than 1 million followers and you've thrived on criticizing Bitcoin, you have to continue to criticize Bitcoin. That's like that's the incentive. Of course, Peter Schiff is going to criticize Bitcoin forever because that's how he gets the followers. That's how he gets the views. So anyways, I don't even know why I wasted my time weighing on to that. I wanted to finish a few things. So I want to call your attention to the benefits of going viral. Especially, so these videos are getting really good. Right? I was talking about AI a second ago. These videos are getting really good. This is Saylor fighting a bear. Nearly 1 million views. Not quite, but almost 1 million views. The intervention, that was also a pretty good video, 30 seconds. That was also pretty good. So we see these AI-generated content, AI-generated ads from the community, helping Saylor out. And the point I want to make is that this is much more powerful than paying ads on X. Paying for ads on X is not as powerful as this. This is very powerful. When 1,800 people shared this video of Saylor fighting a bear, I think one of the things that Saylor has understood really well is the power of social media to spread either the Bitcoin message or the digital credit message, i.e. the stretch message, right? He's used social media to do that. And when you use social media to do that, it's so much more powerful because, for example, advertising for securities, that's heavily regulated. That's also very expensive. Like playing an ad for a security, heavily regulated, very expensive, right? When you have a community who's just creating AI videos, it goes viral, it's community driven, and it helps the cause. It helps Bitcoin. It helps people discover stretch. And also, it really fits. This is another point I'm trying to make. It really fits into, if you look at the landscape of social media, there is no such thing as bad publicity. It's all about getting people talking about the asset and people forming their own opinion, right? Get people talking about the asset, and then the bears will be bears and the bulls will be bulls, and people will debate and form their own opinion. But it's about being out there. And Saylor is one of, these companies, we need to take into account the value of the leader, the value of the social media of the leader, the value of the following. The value of the following accrues to the asset, and I've argued that before, of course, with Elon Musk, talking about how the fact that Elon Musk is like one of the top 5 most followed people in the world saves a tremendous amount of advertising for Tesla, right? Well, of course, Musk is Musk, but for Bitcoin, who's one of the most followed in the world for Bitcoin? It is Michael Saylor. He's got nearly 5 million people who follow his tweets and his retweets. If you compare to Max Keiser, I've been in the space for a while. In my view, one of the biggest influencers, at least in my view, that's always been Max Keiser. He's always been one of the biggest Bitcoin defenders, maxis, etc. I guess he's got a bit of an edgy personality. Maybe some people don't like him, but Keiser only has 669,000 people following him. So Saylor is not quite, but 2/3 of an order of magnitude more followers than Max Keiser, right? More technical person, of course, is Adam Back. 840,000 people. Again, very, very big on Bitcoin. Only 840,000 people, right? Adam Back, some people saying, oh, he's Satoshi, probably saying that for engagement as well. But, 840,000 people, 600,000 people. Saylor, nearly 5 million people. Saylor is undefeated. Saylor is, 3 to 4 times bigger than Peter Schiff in terms of following. And if you look at, say, I think one of the most, I don't know who the most followed person in crypto is, but I'm pretty sure it's him. It's Vitalik, right? The founder of Ethereum. He's probably the most followed person in crypto, 6.1 million. Saylor has 4.9 million. Saylor is closing in on Vitalik. Like we might see a world as strategy keeps becoming popular. We might see a world where Saylor is more popular than Vitalik. So this is all very powerful stuff, if you ask me. So again, calling your attention to the benefits of going viral. These AI ads, you may remember the FUD attack from, I guess now 2 weeks ago, criticizing the AI ad. I'm sorry if you don't like AI ads, but they're about to be pervasive. I believe we're going to have thousands, tens of thousands of AI ads every single day in the future. Every single hour even, there might be new AI ads created everywhere. So AI ads are the future. They're going to be everywhere. And so sorry if you don't like them, but that's just the way it is. And they're getting better and better. And this clip of Saylor fighting a bear who's likely a gold bug, because the bear has a giant, is it a Cuban gold chain or whatever? It's like one of these 30,000 gold chain. That's an example of going viral. 1 million people, right? 1 million people saw this. Continue. Fast forward 2 years, 3 years. Is it 5 million people who see this? Is it 10 million people? Anyways, This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.